how would I handle that situation different than this facilitator is handling it, for better or for worse? And
Yeah.
what that gave me is a sense of, oh, I have my own way, and that way is great too.
Yeah.
And so learn from others, but then your way is completely fine.
Hey everyone, Emily here from Sketchnote Academy, and today I'm here with Lauren Green, aka Dancing with Markers, and she is a visual facilitator, graphic facilitator. We're going to talk about the differences there in just a minute. So, Lauren, thank you so much for coming. Tell the people who you are, what you're about, everything.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be on the show. So I call myself a visual facilitator. I'm also a visual note taker. So what that means is that I either guide group process using visuals, or I am playing a listening role where the visuals are supporting what's being said. And then I'm also a coach, certified coach. I do some consulting, tiny bit of graphic design, everything under the auspices of visuals that serve group process and collaboration.
And you also have a course that's launching soon, correct?
I do. So I actually, it just launched on June 1st, 2021, depending on when you're watching this. And yes, I'm so excited. And it's called Introduction to Facilitating with Visuals, but it is I'm kind of surprised that I did this one as my first course, because it's probably the biggest one that I'll do, with over 70 lessons in it. And it should just be called How to Be Lauren. Years ago, my colleague Brian told me that if I could do anything, it would be to clone myself. So if you take this course, it'll clone me, at least
Awesome.
my skills.
So how did you get into visual facilitation, scribing? Actually, first, let's talk about the terms, because that can be confusing. So talk about what you do and what you don't do and what those terms are.
Sure. And I know it's industry debated and everyone's got it's a little something different. So I say visual facilitation, same thing as graphic facilitation. And to me, that is, I'm designing the agenda, I am working with leadership, I am leading the agenda, I have a speaking role, and I'm really guiding it. And then what I refer to as visual note taking is an umbrella term for graphic recording, which is up at the wall, drawing or sketchnoting on your notebook, or digital scribing on your iPad. So I'll usually refer to visual facilitation and visual note taking as my two primary things.
Cool. I think we've got it now.
Yeah.
How did you get started in that? Because I know when I have done like drawing at conferences and stuff, people are like, how do you even get into this? So what's your story?
The story that I typically tell is that I discovered it while in grad school. There is a workshop on creativity, and a woman named Barb Siegel. Her company is Look to Listen, two with the number two. And Barb was leading a workshop using, she was doing drawing people out from liberating structures. The five symbols one, I'm blanking on it right now, but she taught how to do storytelling with just five symbols. And I was hooked because I immediately saw the power of visuals, and I thought, this is going to be my differentiator. And it connected so many things for me. I have a communications background, I have a performing arts background. So I thought, this visual thing, I need to do it. And that was, I think, 6 years ago that I saw that. But the actual story is that my mother, who is also a facilitator and organization development practitioner, now retired, that she was starting to use the Grove templates later in her career and had introduced them to me, but I didn't really know what it was. And so once I saw it in action, I was able to connect that, and it all made sense why my mother was saying, hey, you should check this out.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And so for anyone watching, what is the Grove? I think you probably have a better understanding or definition than I do.
The Grove, I think, is largely thought of as the organization that sort of founded graphic facilitation as we know it, and it evolved from there. And David Sibbett is the founder of the Grove, and his books, Visual Teams, Visual Meetings, Visual Leaders, Visual Consulting, are really foundational texts for visual facilitators.
I want people to see your work when you first started versus what you're doing now and just showing your growth. So you sent me a couple pictures. This first one is like a blue and white. It says process issues, and you're pictured in front of another picture with this tree. So tell us about those first experiences and what happened and what you were feeling then.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was when I first started, and I was actually in grad school. And if anybody is in school, you have an opportunity right there to practice. So I started sketchnoting in my grad programs. That became my first portfolio. And I started using visual templates as much as I could in my class projects. So what you're looking at there is a visual template that we use to present during a project on the history of organization development. And I remember that I think if I'm thinking the right one, I think I had a lot of trouble with the arrow. And my tree was a little mushroom-like, but it was really was so encouraging to have those early experiences.
Yeah. What was the hardest part for you to draw when you were doing that? Or write? It could be writing or drawing.
I think the arrow was really tricky because I was still learning, and I remember I just had so much trouble with it. So I ended up just kind of coloring it all in with a really dark marker. It just looked kind of wonky. But no, the hardest part, asking for feedback. That was the hardest part, because I had done that right after taking Deirdre Crowley's 3-day Drawing People Out workshop. And that was so important. So another, for budding graphic recorders, sketchnoters, definitely do a 3-day workshop intensive at some point. It's definitely going to propel you night and day. But I had just taken her workshop, and so I posted that graphic into our Facebook group from that workshop, and I got feedback, and it was I got really helpful feedback, a lot of encouragement. But feedback is always something that I struggle with, so asking for feedback was so hard.
So you've danced on stages. I would assume it's very much like visual artists who are like, you're really proud of your work, or maybe you're not. And asking for feedback is so vulnerable because it's like you. For dancing, it's like, it's my body doing the movement. It's me. For artists, it's like, I'm the one who made the strokes or created the thing. That's really harsh if you hear that someone hates it or it's wrong or off. So, how would you suggest for like new sketchnoters, new graphic recorders, visual facilitators, how would you suggest that they like learn to open up and get vulnerable so that they can get that feedback? Like, do you have any tips for that?
I think one of the best feedback tools I ever learned was from being part of the visioneering team at a company called OG Systems. They a team of visual facilitators that hired me on after grad school. And they had a methodology called, I think this is from design thinking. I can't remember which school, but I wish, what if? And so I think one of the most helpful things to get better at asking for feedback is to ask how you want feedback. And so ask for it. What do you like about it? What would you wish for? And maybe give me some ideas for things to try. I wish, what if? And with a structure, then it's really easy for me to just take notes and say, okay, now I'm in feedback mode, as opposed to being fearful, like, I don't know what's going to come up from this conversation.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thanks for sharing that. I know sometimes even with my husband, I'll just like show him something. I'm like, validate me. Like, I'm not looking for critique. I just want you to tell me that I did a really good job. So let's pull up a couple of your more recent ones. You have an AMP Music Summit and Provider Leadership Academy. That might have been an earlier one. I can't remember. But so tell us about these recent pieces and how you've grown from those beginning ones to today.
Yeah, the Provider Leadership Academy, that was a graphic recording that I did, and I felt particularly proud of it. I was learning how to do what's called comic book style, and Trent Wakenight AKA Marker Ninja, is really gifted at comic book style. And so I was particularly proud of that one because the filling just takes a lot of time. And that Music Summit one was done on the iPad. And that was when a few months into starting to use an iPad, because I bought an iPad during COVID, going, okay, it's time. And not that you need an iPad, I just really wanted one. And I was particularly proud of it because I think with that one starting to see the possibilities that I could do with digital that were different from working on paper. So yeah. I'm kind of surprised. I think I grew pretty quickly. I sort of feel like I'm plateauing now, but I think over the 5 years, I grew relatively quickly.
I remember like first starting sketchnoting and graphic recording, and then it was like, I suck so bad at this when I started. And then, like, I don't know, probably took a year until I was like actually kind of happy with what I did. And then I grew really, really fast. And now it's been like 6 years, and I'm like, okay, I've been doing the same thing. How can I grow? How can I differentiate? How can I like level this up? And it's like that's why I love having these sketchnote chats with everybody, is because you learn from other people and you like bounce ideas off of each other. Like the best kind of creations don't happen in a vacuum or solo. So yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat where it's like, okay, what's next? How can I like level this up?
I'm with you though when you're talking about leveling up and how you can't do it in a vacuum. And the IFEP conferences were so key, but also being on a team of people. And I relate so much to what you said because I feel a bit sad right now. I do feel pretty isolated. I'm really excited to get back in the room in person and maybe go to some conferences because I know that I'm not growing in the same way I was when I was on a team and just working so consistently with other people who are doing this work.
Yeah, definitely. And I missed all the conferences. It's like, man, I love learning. Like, I don't know if you're a learning geek like I am. It's like, I love getting paid to go to random conferences and just learn. And I get to draw at the same time, but just learning. I know so much random trivia about like healthcare and tech. I've learned about blockchain and like all these random
I still
things.
don't know what that is, but I've recorded it about half a dozen times.
It's very confusing. At least I have like this high level grasp, but yeah, I'll get there one day, I hope. Otherwise, I'll be left behind.
No, I'm with you. And just I often like to say, I think that if we got all of the graphic recordings in the room together, that we could like cure cancer because we are in a lot of ways, we may not be deep in any of these areas, but we've got a sense of breadth and connection on all of these different subject matter.
Yeah. Have you ever like done a conference and then the speaker sees it and he's like, "Oh, I look so good. You made me look amazing." Have you ever had like a comment like that where they just thought their presentation sucked and then you made it look cool?
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. At first I thought you were talking about their headshot. So I was laughing because I always trace their headshots and I usually, if it's on paper, I put it up as a sticker. And so my favorite thing is when they say that doesn't look like me because
Like I traced your face. Next question is, we already talked about the Neuland big ones. I'm going to put up a little picture here for anyone that doesn't know what Neuland or markers, any of those are. So these are the Neuland markers. They're amazing.
I have a resource called Start Your Visual Note-Taking Journey, and it's free. And you can sign up for that small pitch. And in that resource, I did put up a little PDF of if you're going to go buy Neuland markers, here is my starter kit. And I'm sure you have one too of like start here because it's so overwhelming to.
Yes. I just have like a Emily's Ultimate Guide to Sketchnoting Tools and the Neulands are in there, but Neuland is like huge range of projects. I think I just listed the fine ones, these little things. So these are even outdated. Like I feel like I just got these and they're already onto a different model. So Neuland is amazing. What are the other tools that you use? You talked about the iPad. So what apps do you use?
I use two apps on the iPad. 99% of the time I use Procreate, which I think has been Sketchnote's choice. And then I also use Concepts because it lets you export as what's called an SVG file. And so on the rare occasion that I'm making a little video or something, you want those SVG files of your artwork because you can import that into programs like VideoScribe and it'll trace it the way that you drew it. So
Yeah.
those are my two.
We use flip charts and Neulands and Procreate and Concepts. I also use Adobe Fresco. It's kind of new, but you can do pixel or vector based, which I like because I've had this happen like 2 or 3 times where clients commission like an 8.5 by 11 A4 size. And then they love it so much, they're like, we're going to blow this up and put it in our boardroom. And then it's like so pixelated. I'm like, don't do that. No, no, no. It's, ugh. And so now I've just started creating everything in vector so that if they do want to blow it up, they can. They still have to ask me, but like, yeah, I'm so tired of people not understanding how graphics work that I just want to create something that's really flexible and agile. So when you're walk us through like your day of, say you get hired to go to visual facilitation. Walk us through, you just got hired to, you're wrapping up the event. What is that like step-by-step process like?
So if I'm actually like leading the meeting.
Right.
Okay. So the hardest part is before you even get there, client discovery call, maybe a couple to scope the work. Then there's usually 2 or 3 calls with the client to go over the agenda, talk about I usually provide a menu of activities and different things that we could do. And then there's always the opportunity for curveballs. So there's all this time upfront planning. I also usually write the communications because I firmly believe that a facilitated meeting can just get off way on the wrong foot if people don't know why they're there. And so I usually write the comms for the clients and have them edit it and send it out.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have a communications template that is free and anyone can use it on Google Docs. So I'm happy to provide that. And then if it's an online meeting, then I just sit down in my chair about a half an hour before. But if it's an in-person meeting, I try to get there 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours ahead of time, try to lay out the room in the order of the agenda. So call that the room is the agenda, which I think has originated from one of Sibit's books, but to organize the activities around the room, either clockwise or counterclockwise, so people see the journey that they're about to happen.
That's so cool.
And you can do that on Mural too. You could put the activities into Mural in a way that people can see, oh, I see the flow that we're going to have happen. So
awesome. So yeah. Afterwards, what happens to all the paper? What happens to the files?
I throw it away.
Everyone's so shocked about that. Like sometimes the clients might keep it, but it's actually pretty rare. Almost all of my clients have just like thrown it away. Or if you like see it in the dumpster as the attendees are leaving, they're like, oh my gosh, what have you done? And it's like, well, whatever.
Yeah, I photograph everything and digitize it, and I send back the hard copies if they want them.
What is your like number one tip that you live by?
Appreciation, I think, is really key. So leading with appreciation, leading with positivity is so important, not only for personal well-being, but also for people you work with. Something that I'm not great at, but is one of my values is patience. Patience with the process, patience with other people, being self-aware. So all of that kind of wrapped in. And yeah, it's probably 2. And just, partnerships, it goes back to appreciation, but I would not be where I am without the team that I've been on, without my mom's help, without my professors, without like huge shout out Brian Torello for his mentorship. And now we're more of peer partners. So I think that is just all so key. But then being able to, here's one. What's really hard is to look at everyone else and think that's the right way to do it. What that person's doing, Emily's book, Lauren's course, this is the quote unquote right way. And at some point, one of the things I learned as a graphic recorder, getting to be in the room with other facilitators, is time to mentally practice. How would I handle that situation different than this facilitator is handling it, for better or for worse? And what that gave me is a sense of, oh, I have my own way, and that way is great too. Yeah. And so learn from others, but then your way is completely fine. Oh, and steal like an artist.
Yes, absolutely. I love that advice because it's like when you're first learning something, you don't have a way. So you do kind of have to copy somebody else until you find your legs. And then you just have to go off on your own. But you do have to eventually go off on your own. And that's actually super scary and super hard to be like, oh, this is my style. No one else is doing it. And you're like looking and like, is this okay?
Like, what am I doing? This doesn't look like everybody else's.
Yeah. One of my things that I've been focusing on like fixing or learning this year is like let people like things. And it's like, even if I don't like it or if I wouldn't do it that way, like they can still like it. They can still do it that way. And it doesn't mean it's wrong, like what you said. So yeah, I really love that advice and that pro tip. So what inspires you? Like what keeps you going? What fills up your creative bucket?
Oh man. Coffee and my cat. I have two cats. Um, I have a really close relationship with my mom. So when you first started saying like what keeps you going, it's probably being able to share what I'm working on with her. Because I talk to my mom every day or every other day, and I just love sharing with her what I'm working on and getting her take on things. And going back to like your comment earlier about validation, being a facilitator and being a graphic recorder can be extremely isolating. Sort of feel like, am I doing it right? Because there's nobody else that's in your role to look at in that
Right.
moment. So I find that if I make a choice, and often I need to work on self-validating, but my favorite thing to do is to say, Mom, here's how I did it. And to have her say like, oh yeah, that's how I would have done it. And I go, okay, then that must be right.
That's awesome.
Or to get a good job, you just love it. I'm just like, tell me I did a good job. But, so lifelong thing for me to work on is internal validation, not needing that as much.
Yeah. And do you have other hobbies that are outside of work?
Not since COVID, but I hope
Right.
to get back into it. I love gardening, but big one is dance. So I don't perform professionally, but I love line dancing. I love two-step, social dance of all kinds. So I'm really excited to get back out there and to do some more social dance, because that's where I feel that's my anchor. That's home.
Yeah. Are you on TikTok?
I'm not yet.
I feel like you would really thrive on TikTok. One, because you've got your creative business on one side, but the other is dance. Like there's so many dances and you can just be a part of it socially, remotely. So I just joined TikTok like last week and I haven't posted anything because I've been too scared. So I challenge you to join TikTok as well. Maybe we can build off of each other. I'm like, who do I know that has a teenager that can teach me how to do these things?
It is amazing, like how much things have changed. I used to be a social media, that was my job.
Oh yeah.
Social media specialist. And it's like, I feel so,
I don't know
so
how it
out of
works now. I'm so old. I'm 33 and I'm so old.
I'm 34. Yay.
Okay, so are there any other last words of wisdom or stories? Like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do what is a funny story that you can share about graphic facilitation or something that happened at work?
One of the ones that I like to say about my brand with Dancing with Markers is that I once got a client request, and they said, hey, we'd like for you to come and do that thing you do with the markers, but we don't need the dancing. And because they thought that I was literally like doing a show and graphic recording at the same time. And I had to explain that, no, I don't do those two things.
Oh man. I remember when I first started graphic recording and I would do like those half day, full day conferences. And at the end I'd be like, oh, like I didn't know I had that many muscles in my back. Like I've had such good posture writing all day that my back is like, ah!
This arm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel you.
I think the weirdest thing that happened while I was sketchnoting was the client was weird. It was like a plastic surgery happening live, and I was like sketchnoting how the surgeon was doing it. And I got so sick because like I wasn't even watching. Like they had the surgery. It was like a facelift happening on a screen. I could not watch it because they're like lifting her face. And I was like, bleh! and I like really thought I was gonna throw up. And so I like sat down on my feet, on my knees, and I was just like, and I was like,
Oh
don't
my
barf in
God.
front of everybody. Don't barf in front of everybody.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary.
All right. So any final words of wisdom that you can offer anybody? Anything you'd like to share? Where can people find you?
So people can find me at dancingwithmarkers.com. I'm also on the Instas at Dancing with Markers. I have a Facebook community group, so definitely join our group, especially if you're a facilitator who wants to begin to learn to use visuals. Also, on my website, you can either scroll down and find the link or /coffee-chats. I do weekly, every Friday, coffee chats. They are specifically geared towards facilitators, but visual practitioners are welcome too. And we talk about virtual meeting tools. We're talking hybrid meetings, whatever is coming up. It's a really great way to network, collaborate with a few other facilitators. And I usually cap it at 5 or 6 people. So it's always a really nice, intimate conversation.
That sounds awesome. So yes, if you're ever interested in visual facilitation, graphic recording, go follow Lauren on all of her things. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so fun to reconnect and talk to you about work.
Yay! Yes, likewise. Thank you so much.
I'll see you later.